What's up, everybody? Morbid curiosity got the better of me today on the FGC on NBC. Remember, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel if you can. I appreciate it. Thanks, Super Chat, PayPal, Patreon. Super like the videos. I know a couple people have recently donated, so thank you for buying me a tiramisu while I'm in Japan. So again, morbid curiosity got the better of me while I was on the train in Japan recently, and I saw there was another 2XKO interview or something with Shill Jam or whatever, right? An emergency C-section. An emergency C-section is required to remove you from my life. Okay. Anyway, the voices are hard. It's been too long since I've made those videos, but okay. So I'm listening to this interview while I'm on the train, and I just want to say a few things stuck out to me before we really start talking shit about this game. So at some point, they start talking about how the game has taken so long to develop because they had to come up with all these new ideas for new mechanics in a fighting game. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Time out. I'm like, is this real? Did this motherfucker really just try to say that one of the reasons it's taken so long for this game to come out is because they had to develop all these new mechanics that have never been in fighting games before? Yes, that's Pikachu giving you the bombastic side eye. What is new about the game? Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the new things that is a new quotation marks, they're saying mechanic in the game, a new update to the game is now when you do your down plus hard punch, your launcher, it is anti-air invincible. It's an anti-air move. Wow. It's almost like there wasn't Dragon Ball Fighter Z before that does that. I gotta be honest. Is there anything? No, seriously. Write me in the comments because, admittedly, I am not well versed on the game. You know, I've just looked at it from a distance randomly. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's anything actually new about the game. Is there any big brain thing whatsoever? New mechanic? Wow, what? Like, are you serious? What were you doing? Maybe the reason it's taken you so long to make it's almost like one of those things when I hear something like that is because these people making the game are so fucking incompetent, like I said, and it's nothing but nepotism, right? It's like everything that was my stomach. That wasn't a fart, I swear. That was my stomach. I just ate a little bit before I get ready for bed. Now I lost my train of thought. Someone's like Clayton, that was his stomach, I swear. Maybe it's taken so long to make this game because they literally have no new ideas. Everything in the game is just taken from, oh, that was in this game, let's put it here. That was in this game, let's put it here, right? And so it's like, well, I guess, that was in this game, let's add it to our game too. Because there's no new ideas. I seriously don't know if there's any new ideas in this game whatsoever. Yet it's made by the supposedly greatest minds in the history of fighting games. Sure. Right. And something that also struck out to me that I thought was funny is they're talking about, well, do you guys have any combo challenges or like tutorials yet? And they're like, yeah, no, we haven't done anything like that. Okay, so time out. The game is been being made for 10 years or some shit. 7 years if you don't count the robot game that they were making, but 10 years or some shit like that, whatever, if you count the robot game beforehand, whatever. You've been making the game for 10 years, and what have you been doing? So you didn't have a time to make a tutorial yet for the game or a combo trial for the game? But then you could also say, well, it's no wonder you can't make a combo trial yet for the game because you keep changing everything, because you have no actual idea for what you want the characters to do, seemingly. Right? You kind of put your quarter in your own ass and played yourself by saying that. How do you have a game that you're like, yeah, we're only going to have 10 characters at launch, and then in like 10 years of making the game, well, you never thought about making a combo trial for the game or training mode or something like that? Yeah, we're thinking about doing that now. Oh yeah, because you've had no idea what you actually want to do with the game still. You're still this long into the game, you still don't know what you want like the combos to be in the game. Again, I feel so insulted when I listen to these people talk about the game again. And, that is just me, to glaze myself. Of course, yes, I've done more tech in fighting games than anyone else in the history of fighting games. So of course it irks me to see so many of these people that I have actually beat in tournaments, or they have actually asked me for help on how to do stuff in video games, are working on this game. Or you got people like, I found out, I didn't realize that AK fuck was working on the game. The same guy that jokes about me dying, right? How funny it is, right? Same guy that was like, oh, like I still remember that stupid AKA guy not liking that I was telling everybody how Guilty Gear worked, and he didn't like how I explained things. Well, you can't come up with anything. Who's explaining how Guilty Gear works? It's me, you fucking idiot. I just like, I don't know how these guys got a job on the game. It's crazy to me. And of course, okay, so what I meant by that is, besides glazing myself, of course I'm the best ever in terms of like, describing games and calling the meta of games and finding tech for games. But I think on some level, if you're watching this video, and of course there's haters of mine that watch these videos, but let's say even if you're not my hater or you're one of my haters, you guys could have had this job. You would have a very hard time making me believe that you couldn't just take almost basically a team of random people that just randomly play video games and not be at the same point they are in the lifespan of this game, of like creating characters. Because again, what's the new idea? Oh yeah, we're still trying to figure out how the characters play. Oh yeah, we have ideas for how the character play, but we should ask you how, because we don't know if this is actually fun. I've talked about this how many times when I talk about this game. It's like, on some level, I understand that it's cool to have a collaborative effort, see what other people like too. But you should have an idea of what you want in the first place. And it's just like they seemingly have no idea what they actually fucking want to do. That was my stomach again. There you go. That was my stomach, Pikachu. Okay, Pikachu agrees. It wasn't a fart. It was my stomach. I'm getting ready for bed. Okay. I have to amuse myself before bed, dude. I'm just like flabbergasted at the incompetence of when I listen to people talk about this game, and it's insulting to think that I would love. Can anyone actually leak how much that they've been getting paid to make this game? Because you just watching this video probably could have gotten this far along too, right? All right? I mean, come on, dude. It just is. It's ridiculous when I listen to them talk about this game. And again, that's to say, credit where credit is due. Maybe, I do think it's probably hard to actually come up with new stuff in fighting games. I don't think it's actually possible to make a truly unique fighting game at this point, right? There's only so much you can do in the medium. There are new things, though, that still happen in fighting games, for sure, right? There are still new ideas to be done. But certainly, I think the idea that they were ever going to make a new fighting game that is just 100% of new stuff that is never done before is just not realistic. But what I'm saying is anything new. And the way that they have promoted this game, it makes no sense to me. Right? And that's not to say that you might not have fun with the game. Of course you might have fun with the game. Fun is subjective as well. But, another thing too is, and I've said this before when I've talked about, game theory stuff for 3D or for tag team games and just single or 1v1 games. I've said this before. I actually personally myself, I don't really care about tag team games. I just do combos and tech and game because I can do it, right? I know I'm capable of doing it, right? But generally speaking, I would prefer to actually play a 1v1 game. But what I have said is, if anything, if you're making a tag team game, it should be more creatively free, right? And let's make no mistake, this League of Legends game, whatever, Project L, 2XKO, whatever gender it decides to change itself when it finally comes out, right? This is a tag team game where it already is based off of something. So it's not like these characters are 100% from scratch. I think that is a little bit misleading, right? It's not like brand new characters or some shit like, say, BlazBlue, right? Like I've often said, I actually don't really like BlazBlue. None of the characters actually really appeal to me in BlazBlue. So, one of the reasons people may be like, why didn't you ever play BlazBlue or some shit like that, right? Like, well, first of all, I think BlazBlue came out when I was dying. So I had much other important things to do, right? And I'd already been out of the scene. And none of the characters really just appeal to me, right? And I've said this before that a lot of times you just play a game because this might just be your favorite version of the character, right? You like playing this character in this game, even if you don't like the game, so to speak, perhaps, right? But I've said I think BlazBlue is a great example of a game that has many fairly new feeling characters, I feel like, at the time that it came out. Interesting things. And I think one of the greatest things that BlazBlue should get credit for is in terms of being a beginner friendly game, let's say in terms of what the characters do with that drive button. I always think that the drive button is such a great, ingenious sort of way to make the game fun for even a beginner, in terms of the drive button is generally kind of tied to the character's gimmick, right? Like, Jin freezes you and he has all the different drive buttons with the ice. I just think the drive button is really awesome and a cool thing for a game like BlazBlue. And that's a game that is, I would say, I would consider, again, I can give credit where credit is due. I don't really care about BlazBlue, but I do think BlazBlue should get credit for being a pretty creative game in some ways, at least the original game, right? Some pretty creative characters at one point, right? But those were characters that are made from scratch, right? They didn't exist before, whereas a game like, 2XKO, whatever, obviously these characters are already based off of something, right? You kind of know what kind of, say, archetype sort of character maybe you want to make, let's say, right? So the idea that they're 100% made from scratch and it's all brand new, I think is kind of misleading as well. But to go to a bit earlier what I was saying about 3D games or tag team games, versus one games. If anything, when it's a tag team game, they should be easier to create creative characters, right? Because when you're making a tag team game, right, because there's always this idea that you have somebody, let's say, backing you up, right, compensating for your weakness, right, let's say, of your character, it gives you an excuse to make really wacky characters. You can have characters that have super obvious strengths and super big weaknesses, right? Because then you can always then pick that next character to compensate for that strength or weakness, to find that balance in the team synergy, right? It should be easier to make super wacky moves because these wacky moves could never exist, right, in a 1+1 game. I've made many videos talking about how I would put specific moves in video games or fighting games that could only exist if it was a tag team game. And you can watch those videos, and to be honest, they're great ideas. Of course they are. I came up with them. Of course they are. But they're examples of moves that could only exist in a tag team game, right? There's ideas of like making meta around moves and different sort of scenarios that can only exist in tag team games. So the game is so generally creatively dry that I see. And of course I have to hold it up to extra scrutiny because of it's made by the greatest minds in the history of fighting games, blah, blah, blah. And I got to give them extra shit because, oh my God, hey, it's people that used to ask me for help. People that I used to beat in tournaments. Oh, people that made up lies about me then to get a job. But if anything, like I said, it should be easier to make creative stuff in a game like this because you can make an extra character extra wacky, while then to compensate or balance out that weakness or that strength, give them strange weaknesses, right? That would make them vulnerable to a potential other counter character. And again, how many times have I said a game like Super Turbo? It's amazing that a game like Super Turbo, and this is a 1v1 game, right? where every playstyle has been proven to be effective at the highest level. 30 years later, Super Turbo, every character has proven that they can win at the highest level. Yes, there are better characters than other characters. Yes, some characters are worse than other characters. But it doesn't change the fact that, again, 30 years later, balance in the chaos, these strong archetype sort of characters exist in the game, and every playstyle is effective. And that's a 1v1 game. So if you're making an actual tag team game, you should have even more excuse to make super wacky characters that have super obvious strengths, super obvious weaknesses, right? So then you can find that team dynamic if you like that. Again, I just don't tend to like tag team games, but again, if anything, I would say it probably should be a little bit more. If you have the greatest minds in the history of the scene, especially when it's an entire team, oh my god, like, what are you doing? So that's just me talking shit about the fucking game again. If you like the videos, like, sub, comment, share, support the channel if you can. I appreciate it. Thanks.